The episode starts with the president addressing the people and trying to quell the feelings of insurrection. He calls Lewis a traitor and a wanted man. He and the others who helped him execute the heinous plan will soon be in custody. The president also announces that Lewis' main accomplice is his wife Alma. The speech ends with him declaring a state of emergency until peace is restored in Spain. In the meantime, Lewis is scrambling to find safety after standing up for what's right earlier and starting a revolution. Due to the revolution, there's obviously unrest in Spain, and the government has just announced that it will do anything it can to stifle it. Trapped and at the mercy of Alma, Julia and Marta look doomed. It is revealed that Julia has a biochip on her neck, which her father implanted at the beginning of the show before he was dragged out of his house and executed by the military. It turns out the little girl Marta also has the same biochip behind her neck that works as the antiviral activity. Thus, their blood worked miracles on virus-infected Ivan and Manuela. Given the state orders, Major Enrique has Alma's mansion searched thoroughly. He tells her that no one is allowed in or out of the house, and Alma cannot go anywhere by herself. Later, they talk privately, and Enrique informs Alma that the president believes she aided her husband. He then tells her to be patient for now, as he will take care of the things for her. On the other hand, Emilia helps Manuela walk to the Resistance's lair, where the latter reunites with her lover Ivan. The young couple embrace each other warmly, but for Julia, as if things weren't bleak enough for her, she has to watch helplessly as Marta is again taken to have her blood stolen and used to manufacture the vaccinations. Poor Marta is horrified as she attempts to battle against the guards in vain. In the meantime, Lewis decides to visit Alma despite her support of potential genocide. Emilia and his children advise him to be cautious as he is under the government's radar. Back at the mansion, Alma is informed by her brother Alma that Marta and her aunt Julia have some chips under their skin. It is genetic engineering, and the chips work as a defense mechanism against the virus. Alma has it figured out it was because of the chips that Marta was immune to the virus. She then tells Alma to bring both Marta and Julia to her place so that she can show them to the president and win back his trust. The next scene shows Hugo walking into the police station and filing a missing case for Marta. They tell him to wait in line, and this is when he gets out of control. He is distraught, having lost his child once again. By this time, he coincidentally sees Julia being taken for examination. Hugo then attacks the guards and tells Julia to run away. Julia manages to hide away in an abandoned room, but not long before she is caught by Alma himself. When he holds her at gunpoint, Julia curses at him. Just when he is about to open fire, a guard shoots him dead. The guard who just saved the day turns out to be none other than Carlos, a truly timely return. He then has an emotional reunion with Julia. Back at Alma's mansion, she is approached by her maid Silva to talk about some things. Silva says it's something very personal between two women, so the guards let them chat in private. The maid then secretly takes Alma to the garage, where Lewis is waiting for his wife. Lewis attempts to rescue Alma, who has been caught up in the betrayal. They too have an emotional reunion, but the political divide between them is undoubtedly evident. Alma decides it's too late for her, and she must rely on Enrique to protect her, for now. In the meantime, Enrique finds Alma lying in a pool of blood. The major then has his guards search the whole building, making sure nobody goes unchecked. Julia and Carlos reunite with Hugo, and the trio once again scramble to find their little girl. Back at his mansion, Lewis takes Sergio with him and attempts to sneak out of the grand backyard. However, they are caught by security and are forced inside a vehicle. Much to Lewis' surprise, this group of security forces is led by Fernando, who finally comes out as an ally after having learned about his son. Fernando helps Lewis give him the protection he needs and also tells the minister that there are some soldiers who are on the Resistance's side. In the meantime, Major Enrique visits Alma and informs her of the grave news about her brother. She breaks down completely, so Enrique comforts her. Just then, the Major receives a call from the president, asking him to meet personally. He wants to discuss some matters confidentially. It seems like the president is sick too, as he keeps on coughing while talking over the phone. Before Enrique leaves for the meeting, Alma advises him to check the president's hand or neck to look for any sign of the virus, now that they also have some police forces on their side. The Resistance prepares to launch their ultimate revolution against the government. Meanwhile, Hugo, Marta, and Carlos sneak into the security department where the children are kept. They manage to subdue the nurse on the way and finally reunite with Marta. However, it seems that other kids are also awaiting their parents, so the trio decides to save them all. Elsewhere, Enrique drives to the president's headquarters for the meeting. Upon arriving, the president tells him that he will be out of the country for some time. He has to settle a family matter. He notes that the leading cause for the citizens to revolt is because they found out about the missing children, the test subjects, that are currently being held at the security department. The president then deliberately orders Enrique to take care of the missing children, which means basically killing them for good in order to make the citizens believe that their government wasn't hiding anything or lying to them in the first place. The president also tells Enrique to take care of Alma once she signs the papers that consists of the order to kill the missing children. In the meantime, Hugo and Julia manage to evade the security with the help of Carlos, who is disguised as one of the guards. They successfully sneak out the children while Carlos stands by the door to keep out the soldiers. On the other hand, Luis, Emilia, Fernando, and the rest of the public are gathered on the streets, though unarmed. They head toward the president's building but are stopped by opposing police forces. Fernando talks to his fellow colleagues, begging them to let by and stand on the ground of freedom and morality. However, the police forces and the soldiers stick to the strict orders given by the president and Major Enrique. Leading the crowd, Luis comes forward and talks to the chief, telling him to not shoot the unarmed civilians. The chief, however, calls him a traitor and remains compliant to open fire if given the orders. Luis continues to talk on behalf of the citizens who just want their children back. He tries to convince the soldiers in arms that they are not the enemy. In support of him, the crowd raises a photo of their child and demands justice. Seeing the mob's true unity, the soldiers are caught between the line of morality and duty. Luis continues to give a speech on democracy and how it can be restored to bring about peace in Spain. While this buys them some time for Hugo and the others to rescue the children, the president, who is now confirmed to have caught the virus, loses patience. He then hands over the power and responsibility to Major Enrique, telling him to do everything in his full capacity to shut down the uproar. Enrique then gives orders to open fire. Consequently, the chief and his soldiers prepare in their position. Just when they are about to shoot, a little girl appears behind the chief and heartily greets him. The soldiers are caught off guard when several other children show up in the street. Thanks to Hugo, Julia, and Carlos, despite the chief's warning, the children reunite with their parents. The rest of the armed soldiers also lower their guards when they see the emotional reunion. The chief ushers his soldiers to get back into the position while Luis continues to persuade him to stand down. Gripped in a state of confusion, the chief blatantly opens fire, shooting Luis in his arm. He fires another shot, but this time, Fernando puts his life on stake as he pushes Luis and takes the shot for himself. The bullet hits right on his chest, making him bleed on the ground. Poor Fernando, who had just reunited with his son, lays helplessly on the ground and apologizes to his wife for not believing in her sooner. He then asks her to live life fully and take care of the family before succumbing to a truly heroic death. While the group is caught in the ensuing commotion, Marta is kidnapped again by Enrique, of course, under the orders of Alma. Alex soon realizes that they took Marta away. This gives rise to the ultimate clamor as the whole of the public marches towards the president's lair, demanding the girl back. Meanwhile, Alma and Enrique bring Marta to the president, providing evidence that the little girl can save his life. They plan to transfuse the antidote somewhere safe because the protesters have just arrived at the front gate. Suddenly, it starts raining heavily, making the revolution all the more dramatic. Enrique then informs the president that there is some issue with the rescue helicopter because of the thundering rain. The president demands the helicopter be arrived on time, under any circumstance. Meanwhile, Marta protests, telling Alma she isn't going with them. But Alma threatens her that she will not get to see her parents again if she doesn't behave. After this, the president and Marta are taken to the rooftop by Alma to escape in an incoming helicopter. Downstairs, Hugo, Julia, and Carlos lead the crowd inside the president's house. Hugo surrenders himself, begging Enrique to give back his daughter. But the major tells him it's impossible and warns the crowd for the last time. Back at the rooftop, there is an incoming helicopter, but Marta continues to protest and refuses to go with Alma. This tests the president's patience as he lashes out at the poor girl, pointing a gun at her head. Suddenly, Emilia appears behind him and shoots him, killing him right away. Alma, who sees this, is utterly stunned at what just happened. Marta then runs back safely to her grandma's arms and hugs her. In the meantime, Enrique holds fire when they hear about the president's death. Soon after, Marta is reunited with the rest of the family. Fast forward to 6 months later, Emilia narrates the story as she visits her husband's grave. She remarks on how he is now finally recognized by the public for having discovered the vaccine. It is revealed that Emilia's husband used to be a scientist, but he was killed for defending freedom of thought at the very start of the show. Putting flowers on his grave, she talks to him about the current Spain, that the dictatorship is finally over and the country is on its way to restoring democracy again. Meanwhile, we also see Ivan and Manuela living happily in the mansion with their healthy baby. Both had faced the virus, faced death, and defeated it. Luis is heading up the mass vaccination program. He was the health minister, after all. Alex and Danielle are dating hugging each other. And Julia, she is traveling the world with Carlos while Hugo and Marta wave them goodbye. The final scene shows an elated Alma, who was previously distraught at not being able to go through with a genocide, addressing a crowd of citizens as a candidate for the presidency position. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.